Hello guys, welcome to the Fight Book. It's a new day and let's check what new fights announced yesterday in the fight world or what fights cancelled. Basically, two UFC fights gets cancelled, two new UFC fights announced, some other big fight news from PFL headliner with Paul Hughes and Noya Inoue fight, Teofimo Lopez boxing fight. So let's check all the fight announcements happened yesterday in the fight world. I'm the Indian accent guy and you are on the fight book. Let's start from the UFC. First, tonight's event, UFC Vegas 103. Two fights gets cancelled from this event. Luana Carolina versus Montana De La Rosa is off because Carolina pulled out due to weight issues. Same weight issues with Douglas Silva de Andrade, who pulled out against John Castaneda. So these two fights are cancelled from this event. Then two fights announced. First is Zachary Reese versus Dusko Todorovic. This fight will take place at UFC Vegas 106 on May 31st. It's not a very big fight, but the second one is a big fight. It will basically take place in the UFC 315 man card. It is not officially announced yet, but it's almost done. It is confirmed from big sources that Nickal will return against Renier, former ONE FC's double champ. Renier will return against Nickal, and the date is not confirmed yet, but Nickal has confirmed in the past that he will return in May 2025, and we know he only fights in pay-per-views. So the May pay-per-view is UFC 315 with with headlining Bilal Muhammad. So that's a huge news. One interesting call out I also want to share with you. It's Song Yadong who called out Henry Cejudo for a sparring session because UFC has declined their request to make a rematch. Henry Cejudo yesterday called out Peter Yan for May, the same UFC 315 card. So I don't know what UFC will do to him, but I don't think this sparring session is going to happen. And last two news from the UFC, not very big, but from the UFC events, UFC has announced that they will return to Perth in the end of 2025. They already basically if you are a UFC fan, you know that UFC do an event in Australia, one event per year, and they have already done it with Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, which no one liked, and they will do another event, and this time it will be a fight night event, and it will take place in the end of the year. And next year in 2026 they will be back with the pay-per-view in Perth, Australia. UFC news end here, and let's check from some big fights outside of the UFC. Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov 2 is everyone waiting for, but the news is that Paul Hughes will return soon in PFL's Belfast event on May 10, and the reports are that Usman is not going to be his opponent. Sources say that PFL told Paul Hughes that if he wants the rematch with Usman Nurmagomedov, he will have to wait till the September. But the Belfast event is taking place in Ireland, so Paul Hughes will return to headline that event in front of his own people. So he is risking his number one contender status. He will have to win this fight, then he will get the rematch with Usman Nurmagomedov. Then Tony Ferguson versus Dillon Danis has been confirmed from GFL, but the date is yet to be decided. From boxing world, Diego Sanchez versus John McDessie has been announced as the co-main event of Rampage Jackson versus Rashad Evans boxing match. which will take place on April 12th. Then 3 title fights are announced from Top Rank. The Top Rank's U Next Boxing 2 card in Tokyo will happen on March 13. Flyweight 112 pounds title unification bout will headline the event with WBC champion Kenshiro Teragi versus WBA champion Siego Yuri Akui. Then, WBO flyweight champion Anthony Olaskuaga versus Hiroto Kyoguchi will also co-headline the card. The third title fight will be 108 pounds title match, WBO title fight with WBO champion Shokichi Iwata versus Renier Santiago. It's a triple header. Then another big fight is announced is WBO super lightweight 140 pounds champion Teofimo Lopez will return against his mandatory Arnold Barboza in the event of Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero, and the co-headlining by David Haney versus Jose Ramirez. He will the co-headliner. Martin Bakole versus Afia Jagba will also take place in this event, so that event is going to be huge. Basically, that whole weekend is going to be huge in the boxing world, because May 2nd it's Ring Magazine Fatal Fury City of the Wolves card with Ryan Garcia, David Haney and Teofimo Lopez. On next day, May 3rd, Riyadh season card with Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull for the super middleweight title unification or undisputed title fight will take place. And on the next day, on Sunday, May 4th, Naoya Inoue versus Ramon Cardenas will take place. This fight has been announced yesterday, not officially, but it is confirmed, with Rafael Espinoza versus Edward Vasquez taking place in the co-main event. And that's all. I would not waste your more time with a long outro, so now do whatever you want.